today we're here with UK producer Tim Green, who's released on quality imprints like Cocoon, Dirtybird, 420 and of course his own new imprint, Disc Over. Tim's previous releases have picked up support from the likes of Richie Hawtin, Luciano and Sven Vath, and Tim has also remixed for the likes of Seth Troxler, Booka Shade and Cassius. So he's here to give us an exclusive insight into Just People, a new track from his latest EP. So welcome along, Tim. Thanks for coming in.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No worries, man. So the very first thing I thought I'd ask you about is the EP as a whole. First of all, how did that come together, and how did those tracks kind of fit together for you?
Well, actually, the main track, Just People, is actually about 2 years old. I finished it quite a long time ago. And it was going to come out on various different labels, but for different reasons, it never happened in the end. And then, which I was actually really happy about, because I've just only started my new label and I was able to then release it finally on my own label, which I was really happy about, because it's a track that I've been playing pretty much every set for the last 2 years and just hasn't seen the light of day yet. So, yeah, I was really happy about that. And then the B-side, Monomania, was a track that I've written more recently, but I felt worked really well, and it was a sound that I was reflecting on what I want to do at the moment. And
that kind of ties into the label as a whole. Is that the kind of, you know, was it the case, obviously, given that Just People was made a while ago, did it feel like, you know, you didn't really get home until you created your own? Yeah,
I think on some level, definitely. It was, yeah, I think so on some level, and I think, but I think for the future, you know, it's early days yet for the label, so I'm not sure in terms of sound or direction. It's just going to be music that I'm really into, and to be fair, I'm into a broad range of stuff. So in the future, it could be anything to me.
Cool. Well, you know, looking forward to hearing more from the label. So Just People, in particular, the track. What was the kind of initial start, the inspiration for this one?
I think I always had in mind the sort of track which was a long kind of progression and a long build up to the big main drop, kind of, you know, two thirds of the way through, and just really to keep it kind of dark and brooding, but quite rolling at the same time, and quite percussive as well. And
kind of directed firmly at the dance floor, obviously.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Cool. So your workflow in particular, I know you use Logic and Ableton. Can you talk us through the kind of setup that you typically work with?
Yeah, I mean, the setup that I use at home is probably half and half in the box and then half hardware. And I don't strictly use either one, or it's just whatever I think works.
Okay.
In particular, this track, I think pretty much most of the sounds are either samples or synths on board. I've externally affected some of them and brought them back in. I've got various synths at home, like Moog, synthesizers, and Nord, and various things, and various outboard sort of compressors and stuff, and EQs. And then on board, it's just, various sort of different plugins and stuff. Okay,
cool. So take us through, what did you start with when making the track? What was the kind of first thing you laid down?
Yeah, the first thing that I kind of laid down for this track was really, I think, the bottom end groove, if I remember rightly, like the kick and Did You Want Me to Play?
Yeah, let's have a listen.
Yeah, I think it was really like starting off, I mean, when I start a track, it can kind of vary between, I can start with a melody, I can start with the groove or whatever, but this really was just sort of the low end, that sort of sample that I've got, like the low end sample going on, the kick and everything. You can move it along, you can.
And you've got kind of bassy, almost tom working on
the side. So there's a few sort of samples going in here as well. I've got this sort of low end, that sort of low end thing, which is a sample. I can't remember where I got that sample. I think it's a pitch down. I can't remember, some kind of a African drum, I think, if I remember rightly, which is what a lot of this was sort of based around, was different sort of samples, I think, African sort of sound samples.
You get the groove, most definitely.
Yeah,
there's a real good kind of groove to it.
If I play the whole track, I need to listen. So I've got a lot of percussion going on there, and there is the main, that sound, which is, if I remember rightly, that was a sound that I created just from using this flange effect, which is also playing through.
Okay.
Which is just like a torque drum, but I've put a lot of flange on it. And then I found I'd sampled bits of it and then made that sort of melody.
And you've almost got a kind of plucky string kind of sound out of it.
so I just took that small bit, which was that sound. I took that from the flangey sort of a sound. I heard that, and that kind of became then the melody. And from that, I then doubled it up with the same sort of melody sound, which is essentially. So it's sort of the thing, and then I wrote that over the top, which is a synth, and then a couple of synths going on there, which that's a massive from NI. So it's really that one sample that I first sort of picked out from the percussion that I kind of affected, that then denoted the rest of the melody for the track, really. And then I heard that and I was like, oh, I really like that hook. And then I sort of built a little bit of a melody over the top. So that was the first hook and melody that came out of the track.
So can you talk us through how, you know, when you've kind of got that hook and that's what really stands out to you, how do you then bring about the other kind of melodies that work with it and kind of evolve throughout, really?
It just, for me, it's always just when something comes to me. I've been playing guitar all my life and I'm quite musical, so to pick out melodies, it can take a long time until I find the right one, but when I do, then it's like
writes itself
plain sailing. Yeah. So it was, as I said, like that sort of one sample really was the catalyst, I guess, for the rest of the melody. So which is really a simple, you know, it's just like 3 notes or something. Yeah. So but then just writing the rest of it on the synth was enough, I feel, because I really wanted to keep this track kind of just bubbling under, if you know what I mean, until the last drop. So. Okay, well take us through to hear the kind of drop as well, because I think that's definitely something to... The main drop? Yeah. Oh yeah, there's also that second main synth in there. It's quite a kind of haunting this melody. Which is the absinthe, which I think it's just like, it's an arpeggiated sort of a melody which I played around. I think you can arpeggiate it within the absinthe plug itself. And then, and as I said, like the main basis for this track was, I really always wanted to do this and build to this last drop. Let's see if it'll play. The computer might have a problem with it. See what happens. Okay, yeah, it works. So yeah, with the big sort of stab chords, that's the last sort of main drop, which you know in a loud club works so well. The 2 chords, it's so simple and just floors everyone every time because you don't expect it coming, and it's something that I always like to do so much in my tracks, is just have a moment where it kind of switches and just throws people off, you know. And I especially had that in mind with this track because I wanted it, as I said, just kind of like almost on one level, just bubbling under, getting to almost to the point where people are kind of like, there's not really much happening here, there's not much going on, almost getting bored, you know, people just like, what's going on? And then when it drops, it's a really, you know, a really big impact sort of. And what chords are you using there? Can you talk us through that? Yeah, so Sculpture, which is one of, I think one of Logic's plugin, which is a really, really lovely, you know, organic sounding plug. It's kind of like a modelling synth. Yeah. Which I think is just dry, if I'm not wrong. Bit of EQ. And it's literally, I mean, like, it's just literally, I don't know, I guess you can see that. Yeah. Just doubled up an octave, and then it's the same with the bass, is just doubling up the same notes, a bit more of a groove going on. Again, just so super simple, just straightforward. Again, how I came up with it was it's just what I heard in my head, you know, it's just what I can't really explain why, but that's what I was hearing in my head, and I think simplicity was the key for this track as well. It definitely works. Can you talk us through your kind of, do you mix as you go, for example, or is it something you do afterwards, after the arrangement? Yeah, I always mix as I go, and I don't generally do a lot of sort of EQing in terms of trying to space the sounds out in terms of the mix, and I do a lot of sort of external effecting, but that's when it's extreme sort of stuff. Generally, the key for me to get the good mix is really choosing the sounds correctly, perfectly. I think if you have to change something so much to get it to sound good, you should get rid of it, you know? And the mixing is such a small part for me. I think it's more, I guess, more production, which is more, as I said, like choosing the sounds, putting them in the correct sort of, choosing a sound that's in the correct frequency space, and everything like that, and sort of doing minimal sort of EQing. That's generally the way I work, and I don't ever do my own mastering or anything. I always try and have everything as loud as possible. And then when I come to do the pre-master to send off to the mastering studio, then I might do a new mix so that everything's you know, at the correct level for mastering.
Yeah.
So.
And how about, you know, the bottom end on this track? You know, it's something that's got a real kind of deep, bubbling feel. How do you kind of work with those elements, you know, in terms of the mix, helping them kind of sit together right?
Again, really, I think choosing the right sounds, you know, and giving them the right space. There's a lot of tricks that you can kind of learn just from even like listening to a live band and how they play, you know, how a bass guitarist would play with the kick drum and how the kick drum would play with various cymbals on on the drummer sort of a thing. And how they all, you know, being musicians in a band, you can sort of see how they know how to space stuff and they know how to write stuff. So I think it's the same. This is what the same thing that I do, because I sort of come from that live music background. That I think more about the positioning of the stuff to get it to work, rather than just whacking on a bass line and try and mix it so it fits. You know, I think more musically about it, how it fits together with what's happening. If that makes sense.
Yeah, most definitely. That's probably about time. The last thing I know lots of our students and lots of the guys watching at home are always kind of curious about is, do you have any kind of words of advice for someone looking to kind of go from, just to get over that step from bedroom producer to getting their tracks out there and heard?
I don't know. I think getting your tracks out there and heard is getting easier and easier now, because anyone can set up a label, especially within digital, and anyone can, you know, you can give out music for free. Obviously, you can do everything yourself. I think nowadays, if you want to try and either stand out or actually get onto any kind of a bigger platform, I think nowadays my advice would be for producers to keep as much back as possible to begin with, and aim as high as possible. I don't think give your music out to the first person who says, yeah, I want to release it, if it's a small label or something. Just because I know that a lot of labels, even, you know, the bigger ones especially, are looking for new talent, but they're looking for kind of exclusivity. Undiscovered, exactly. And if you've done too much, you know, on the lower end sort of stuff, it puts people off, unfortunately, you know, which I wish it wasn't that way, but it does. And I think people need to be really keeping it to themselves, be really analytical of their own music, and just set yourself pretty high goals, I think, and push yourself until you really feel that you know you've gotten to that level. I think, and just put in the time. Yeah, I think that's
definitely excellent advice.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thanks very much for coming in,
thank you,
Tim, and you know, thanks for giving us an insight into the track and into the way you work. Make sure you keep locked to the YouTube channel, to Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff. And we'll be back again. We'll see you very soon. Thanks for watching, guys.
At Point Blank Online, you've got two methods of interaction with your tutor. Firstly, you've got the weekly online masterclass, which is in real time. And then also we've got feedback on your assignments, and that's known as DVR. So the online masterclass is a 1-hour session you get with your tutor every week. You can ask questions about the lesson content and get instant feedback, and also demonstrations on the fly from their computer desktop with our streaming technology. DVR stands for Direct Video Response, and the concept is really simple. You upload your Ableton, Logic or Cubase project file to your tutor, he downloads it and then pushes record on the screen capturing software and it evaluates your work, so basically giving you one-to-one feedback. You see all of the mouse movements and any parameter changes made by your tutor. It's kind of like sitting in the studio over their shoulder watching what they're doing whilst they work. We have found the DVR process has truly revolutionized the way that we teach online, and the results speak for themselves. Book your place on a course now by visiting pointblankonline.net.